Hello, Twitch and YouTube. So today I'm going to be recording a Let's Play, at least a couple episodes of Let's Play for Shadow Empire, which is a turn-based sort of 4X game in sort of a futuristic sci-fi setting. I'm going to keep the planet fairly small. We're going to go with the Boreas class. It's not what I expected. Continue to do. One thing before we get started too deep in, so I'm going to go turn the audio down a bit. It's a bit loud for my headset at the time. That better? Maybe a little bit more. Something like that. Yeah, that's maybe a bit on the loud side, but I think that'll work for your end. So. So, sort of a hex-based 4X game in this sort of sci-fi setting. I'm going to keep the planet fairly small for this first game, and I'm going to go for a Borealis class. We got a bunch of options in here. I think the only option I'm going to toggle on is spread out, so all the majors are more spread out. On the generation screen, I'm going to keep it fairly simple. We're going to start off with Tech 3 with the possibility of air forces. I'm going to do a detailed planet generation, though a lot of the steps are just going to be, yeah, that looks good, click next. Fog of War, going to go complete. I'm the only one playing this, so there only is one human player. We'll start with city state, start with militia only. Not necessarily going to turn the difficulty up much and leave it on regular instead of beginner. And I'm going to give the AI all the time it needs to think. So to start off, we've got a quarter of the gravity of Earth on this little planet. That's probably fine. The normal heavy element mates. It does have an atmosphere, barely in the atmosphere, so what, it's 700 something is normal Earth. So we've got a planet that's about just under a quarter, probably about a fifth of regular atmosphere, but a quarter gravity. So that's probably workable for small things like helicopters that we'll probably end up using. On the other hand, this is going to be like 99% plains. I'm going to hit reroll here a couple times just to give us something with some mountains. Okay, so we've got stuff besides just plains this time. And that thickened the atmosphere up a little bit, which is fine. This is a cold planet. So obviously there's going to be no life on this planet. There's trace amounts of ammonia and sulfur dioxide, so basically there are bad stuff in the atmosphere that our people don't want to breathe, which is fine because there's not enough atmosphere here to breathe anyway, so they'll be in the same sort of spacesuits either way. So before, in Shadow Empire, you're sort of playing a empire. Well, you're playing a 4X game after the sort of collapse of an empire. So this is what the planet was, population-wise, before the empire collapsed. I'm not gonna really re-roll too much here because it's sort of a small ice planet. And we can see before we had like 15 million. So only 1/15th of the planet survived the collapse, survived the apocalypse. If you're more interested in events, you could probably go scrolling through here and read up on more of these events. So what this will tell us is there's at least, for example, one destroyed nuclear reactor somewhere that's probably caused some radiation splayed out across the planet and so on. And this is the final overview screen before we get into our starting city. A little bit mountainous. We're close enough to the planet, or close enough to the star that even though it's a tiny star, that we're getting negative 17 C, so it's basically going to be frozen year-round for most of the planet. In here we can pick colors. I'm going to leave the colors on default because I'm not that picky. The only thing I might change is I might change the symbol to like a gear. As you start up, you can pre-align your faction with various alignments. So government, enforcement, commerce is the first choice it's giving us. I often find that for long games, aligning with commerce early is usually a little bit on the strong side. Then it's fist, mind, heart. Usually I like to go mind. If I give up, I tend to fall back to heart. And then meritocracy, autocracy, and democracy. Because this is a small planet, this or smallish planet, I'm gonna go democracy instead of meritocracy. Meritocracy is usually what I'd probably go with if I was trying to go for a very long planet. As the game always starts off, basically the turn after the previous lord is dead, and you are the new leader. Unbased accusations lead the populace to believe you are a liar. Okay. And we get some other fate things like docile AI, which may be useful. Wasn't what to do after that. So let's see our start. Okay, so our start is starting us on 2 roads going out. So there's 2 zones nearby, presumably. Free Cave, Nocturnal Hill, Manamore, Athras, and High Mount. So High Mount's probably one of the cities. So there's probably 2 minor cities nearby, given by the fact that we got roads going off into the proverbial sunset here. On the other hand, we also can immediately see that we've got some unknown units nearby. So we're going to have to get moving quickly. Much like we just got given a choice between various alignments, it has for one of our game start decisions popped up here in how do we want to carry out our ascension speech. So do we want to favor autocracy, democracy, meritocracy, or favor none of the above? Well, we already picked democracy, so I'm going to pick democracy, which is the only one that isn't going to affect the opinion of any of our existing factions.
Yes, sir.
We'll come back to picking the organization here. Because I can see we already have enemies nearby, it may be tempting to take a more militant approach. If I wasn't going to go militant approach, it'd be obvious economic council first. And we have an ominous sealed door. Let's try to study the situation first. Okay, we're going to leave the door sealed, apparently. What have we got? Beginning garrison in the city. So we've got a motorized division, so let's send the motorized division out. Apparently motorized division with tanks, so the militia have got tanks. What are you? You are a rifle militia. Okay. But you're free folk marauders. So I'm guessing that this is probably a city, and this is probably a city, and this is just unaligned zone, is it? So I'm trying to remember where various buttons are. Okay, so that's the history, which we don't need. This is for the tech tree in the base game. To unlock them, lock techs, right? First you have to discover tech, and then the follow-up is you can then research your discover techs. To discover techs in this engineering group, for example, we have to have researched 4 or more techs in the basic tech group. Chemistry is also 4 or more. And that's basically how the lines here work. It's like, okay, so this group requires 4 in this zone, discovered and researched. This group requires 4 in this zone, discovered or researched. And that's sort of how you work through the tech tree. So you don't necessarily need to research everything. There isn't necessarily a linear progression on most of the techs. Certain techs can come out of order. For example, you could hypothetically skip... what's a good one to hypothetically skip, right? You could hypothetically skip padded enviro suits and instead sneak down here to combat armor and like go from, okay, you guys are just running under the minimum gas masks to work in the environment to now they have proper combat armor. No, that's about over. So here's the strategic map. So on the strategic map, we can see that we have a territory, a minor regime, and the non-aligned forces. Okay. So that's kind of what I wanted to check in on. So this is a territory. This is probably leading to a road that is not a city. So territories are sort of factional forces. There could be things like robots and stuff like that that don't have a city. Well, that's been going with territory as well. Interesting. Okay, so these have minor cultures. You can see the non-aligned area in here. Doesn't have anything as far as like, oh, it has a culture or anything. It just stayed as non-aligned. Early on, I am going to want to leave one guy on the city, because we don't want the marauders just walking in and taking our city. And now that we've got this guy encircled, we're going to try to get rid of this guy. We probably won't do that successfully do it on the first turn. No. But attacking him like that should at least pin him down, so he should not be moving anymore. Seeing as I have a big hunk of online territory out to the west, and I have two places next to me referred to as territories, I'm going to go for a bit more of a military-centric start. Which you might think is, oh, I'm going to go military research, which is not what I'm actually going to do. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do Model Design Council, so that we can do things to improve our army units, not necessarily improve the technology in our army. Let's see what strategy cards we started with. We started with Open Contact, Send Spy, Recruit some juniors, as well as the Fate card that we saw earlier. Propaganda Assistant, Frontline Inspirator. So these buff various leaders. We have Docile AI. I'm going to go ahead and cast Docile AI right away, because we do start with one Fate point.
Roger that.
And that'll give us a unit somewhere in our starting area. There he is. This guy's specialty is he's got robot dudes. Right, so the robot dudes, they're maybe not the best combat units, but they're robots. They don't need to be fed, so they can sort of wander around where they need to, with disregard for supply lines. With that, I think that's the first turn. One thing I could do is I could start raising regular units. We have 29,000 recruits that I could hypothetically turn into units, right? So I could do like a raise formation without an OHQ. Oh, no, independent, without an OHQ, because I want independent. I could try to like raise a machine gun battalion or machine gun regiment to defend the capital. Or if I wanted to raise something that was with an OHQ, for example, I could do brigade-sized infantry. Save up a little bit and do a brigade-sized infantry. But we'll hold off on that and see how the position evolves over the next couple turns. So militia attempted to do a breakout and failed. Okay, now we've got 6 events. So we got a diplomacy decision. Nomad traders are wanting to sell us munitions in the Myanmar territory. Okay. So if I could keep them happy, I wouldn't have to worry as much about that front. So I'm going to accept those munitions. 250 credits, because to go with war with Droll Light Space. So that's them. Set the national budget, which the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to more balance this 50-50.
Yes, sir.
It's an easy decision for me. Org decisions. We have one guy we can assign to org decisions, so we'll assign the one guy to him. Org decisions is one of the few things where I'll go pretty heavily toward design model priority instead of discover model priority. Because whenever you're not designing, it gets redirected to discover.
Roger that.
And right off the bat, I don't think we need to try improving any of our existing models. We're gonna see what other technologies he can find. Because he can find things like tanks and stuff like that early on if we leave him alone. So now the question comes down to, do I want to spend that 250 credits to get a 5th column of rebels rising up when we go into Droll light space? And I think the answer is yes. And I'm going to use our now well-rested troops to finally clear out the encircled forces here.
Mission successful.
And we'll try to encircle probably what is more militia here. Well, these guys will bundle up the road. So one thing I have toggled on by default, which you might not have toggled on by default, is show operational logistics. So everything right now is green, which means everything right now is within our logistics net. And we're having no logistics problems. Our starting city starts with a civilian transport hub, which is where we're getting all our logistics from. Once again, I do have the opportunity, if I wanted to take it, to deploy professional troops. The longer we go without deploying professional troops, though, the greater the militancy of... Well, the greater the forces our militancy is willing to lend us, right? So the more militia forces we get, which are sort of cheap forces, in that it's sort of civilian upswell providing us with units. So right now this is trending up because we haven't rallied any professional army units. Though, as you can see, it's about the size of its maximum size, right? It's only a little bit smaller than its maximum size. So if we needed a rapid deployment of troops, we'd have to fall back on the professional troops. So we know these guys are nomads. We know these guys are some sort of regular civilians. Because their dissidents are inviting us to go invade them. I want to know what sort of type of territory these guys are, so we're going to send in some spies to figure out what they are. I will go... Oh, I don't have the political power for it. I'm only hired a unit there. Yeah, so we don't know what type of minor culture they are. We can guess that these guys are probably some sort of civ faction, civilization faction, though they're a minor civilization factor. And then we know these guys are the nomads, because the nomads have reached out to us. That's this turn. We're rolling on to the second turn. Well, ending the second turn. Okay, so that does appear to be militia, because they attacked us. Bazookas, good to know what bazookas are. We don't need them yet, but it's good to know what they are. Okay, and because of the decision we took last turn, it has told us where the city is that we need to go to. We need to come all the way down to that city. And they're apparently on a frozen river.
Open fire! Open fire!
And we'll clear these guys out while we're here.
Mission successful.
Successfully. And we have some new designs. So we can go develop those bazookas, which I'm not going to, because I don't think we need to be facing any tanks or armored vehicles yet. And the 5th Minos Guard Battalion has a choice of attachments I can attach to them. So it's this infantry here that I get to choose some attachments for. You want to give them 2 commandos or a veteran sergeant. So both of those are going to have alignment effects, right? So 2 commandos is going to increase our meritocracy by 11. The veteran sergeant will increase our enforcement by 11. Looking at it, neither of those would necessarily be a long-term problem. So, as far as this is concerned, right, this profile limits autocracy, meritocracy. Oh, actually, it would potentially be a problem because it would be limited by. So, I'd run into a problem if I went meritocracy here. That would potentially limit the rise of our democracy. If we went enforcement here, it could potentially limit the rise of our commerce. So arguably, I don't actually want either choice. But that's not a choice. I have to pick one of the 2 choices. And probably the one I'm most favoring right now is picking the commandos.
Yes,
we'll take 2 commandos. So we got 2 commandos. Commandos during combat go on solo missions. If they succeed to reach the target, they do a bunch of extra damage. However, obviously, there's a chance that that doesn't go well. So, in which case, your commandos go away. And once again, I think I'm going to postpone raising regular troops. It is getting very tempting, because running down here to Jural Light Space would be more doable with regular troops if I could leave the militia behind to do garrison duty. What did the spies let me know what type these are? We're cantoneers. We got cantoneers to our south. Okay. And you can roughly see the shape of their zone, right? So this is a road leading off to somewhere, but it is not actually leading off to somewhere in their zone. So it's leading off to somewhere over here. Probably leading off to the Vorbaran commune. So that's actually something I could do, because I could send a spy off to the Vorbaran commune. Oh, I don't even have enough recon on their hex to send the spy. Okay. Alright, so I think we're done. We're gonna roll the turnover. I'm not too worried about our robot up there, because he doesn't need supplies. Advanced troops found by the sealed silo doing more clothes in the zone Minos. 9 machinery recovered. Nice. Oops, I swapped off the move onto staging move. One thing I do want to do is I want to try to maintain a zone of like 3 tiles around the city. Yeah, so the presence of this guy here is somewhat intimidating the city. The city would prefer that to be dealt with. So before we go running off to our military goal over there, we do probably want to secure the circle of our city. I'm going to hope that, because we've started off with nice relations with the nomads will not come in shooting.
Yes,
The candidate is fine at this point. Demands an oath of peace. So I have already agreed to go to war with them. I have, let me check my, no, that's not it. Pretty sure there's a way to check what my urgent issues are. Not demands. Oh no, it is in demands. Here. I've promised to go to war with them in 10 rounds. So right now, the official government of Jura Lightspace is attempting to demand that we agree to peace. But yet, I've already agreed to go to war. So as much as I don't like Fist, we're going to say no. We're not going to peace with you. We're going to war with you, but not telling them we're going to war with them because we're not ready yet. And again, we're always revisiting this concept of, do I want to rally more infantry? What are we really missing for this infantry? We've got the metal, we've got the materials. Is that just a logistic problem on that tile? It might just be a logistic problem on that tile. Yeah. Okay, so we've got about 80% of what we need to rally a full brigade of infantry. The alternative that I might do is rally a regiment-sized machine gun to hold the capital. But I think because we're going to go on the offensive, I will probably do a brigade of infantry. But I'm not going to do it yet. We're gonna wait a little bit more longer before we go invading our neighbors. Okay. Well, they made the choice for when we're declaring war very easy by declaring on us. So they've declared on us, which means we've got in our 5th column troops showing up over here. We'll try to get them in supply ASAP. We've got some 5th column troops over here as well. Okay. So we might be able to keep that supply lane open. If not, they'll probably still have enough mobility that we'll be able to get everything lined up for the next turn. At this point, we are at war with them, so I should probably stop procrastinating on actually raising those infantry and go ahead and just raise that battalion, or raise that brigade. So we're gonna raise the whole brigade of light infantry in the capital. And the next turn, they will be able to start walking towards the front lines to carry out our combat operations. And our enemies are showing that they have apparently significantly better maneuverability than I had assumed. Goal is average relations with the regimes going up. As much as I like commerce, that's not necessarily super doable right now. Industry assets raise at least 1 level. Well, we're at war and I don't have time to spend industry on our industry assets, so no. Quality of life of 6 is plausible,
Yes,
so
sir.
we'll press that button. Artillery is something I want to develop, so go ahead and develop the biggest artillery piece you can get. Okay, so we have the nobody that we recruited earlier and the nobody that got handed to us from one of the factions. So we'll give the nobody from the faction
Affirmative.
the job of commanding the infantry. Sorry, nomads, we're going to take a little bit of your territory as we run down the road. No, and our link up has failed, so these poor infantry will be out of supply for another turn. So we didn't quite have the mobility to get the road back into our control. that is the turn. And I believe that's where I think I'm going to go ahead and put the first cut for YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube and want to see more, there'll be another part up tomorrow. If you're watching on Twitch, hang around. I'm just going to take a short break to grab a little bit of drink. Either way, see you all in a bit.